So someone comes in, they file a Chapter 7,
Hmm.
and you look at the case and you say, you have $50,000 in federal student loans. Let's unpack, the steps after the bankruptcy discharge on the 7. What does that look like?
Sure. So in order to get your student loans discharged, federal or private, it's the exact same process. In order to get your student loans discharged, your first step is you need to file the bankruptcy case. Whether that's a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13, you still need to file the bankruptcy case because the that is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Once that bankruptcy case is filed, you then need to file a separate what's called an adversary proceeding, which is just a lawsuit that is filed by you, the borrower slash debtor, against the holder of the loans. That may be the Department of Education.
Mhm.
That may be a private entity in the event that that loan was, say, federally guaranteed, or if it were a private loan. So you file a lawsuit against that entity in bankruptcy court, which and your allegations are, or your claim is, that those student loans constitute an undue hardship. In the case of a federal student loan, you then have the option of filing an attestation, which is a fairly detailed package
Mhm.
that speaks to your income, your expenses, your age, your employment history, your physical history. It's really a full package, and the reason why the Department of Justice has streamlined this process is because that attestation gives the Department of Justice and the federal government in general the ability to properly assess whether or not those student loans do constitute an undue hardship.
Got it.
So that in the event that they do, then you don't need to go through the rest of the litigation process. You don't need to go through pretrial discovery and all the court hearings and the trial and
Right.
depositions before
Right.
that and expert witnesses and everything else. So it makes the case a lot less expensive for you.
Right.
It also makes the case a lot quicker,
Now, when you're
which
saying for you, you
for you, the
are
borrower.
you the borrower, but attorneys are doing this. Like, you're not having
Yes.
clients do this on their own, filling out an attestation form. I mean, people aren't doing that, are they?
Th Interesting that you should ask. There was a case that was decided very recently, within the past 30 days or so,
Okay.
that the borrower had represented themselves and had filed an adversary proceeding
Mhm.
and had completed the attestation on their own.
Mhm.
But 3/4 of the attestation
Mhm.
were blank.
Okay.
And so to your point,
Yeah. Let me just
do borrowers actually do this on their own?
yeah.
They do, but with the same level of success that they would be getting if they were filing on their own even before the attestation. And
Yeah.
there was a study done a couple of years ago that indicated that people who filed for bankruptcy and sought a discharge of their student loans in bankruptcy had about a 2% success rate. And
Okay.
one of the big takeaways was, well, student loan bankruptcy discharges don't work. But the real issue was that the vast majority of those cases were filed by people without attorneys. So
Yeah.
they were filing cases
I mean, it's just
blindly,
complicated.
essentially.
I mean, it's just complicated. This is I mean, like, you wouldn't do their job, what they're doing every day. Like,
Sure,
you're not like freelancing as an electrical engineer. This is what you do all day long. You're a
sure.
consumer attorney. You work with debt. You work with student loans.
Yeah.
Jay, once you file the attestation, what's the waiting period? Like, how long does it take? And then how do you find out what the results are?
You're going to submit the attestation and all of the information to the U.S. attorney that's assigned to the case. They'll review it. Sometimes it does take longer. And if it takes longer, you're going to be working directly with the U.S. attorney
Okay.
so that any questions that they have, you'll be able to answer. And just like anything else, you're if it takes longer, they'll let you know it's
Yeah.
taking longer and
So it's
you'll just
longer,
make
like
further
3 months,
extensions with the court.
3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Like, how long is longer?
I have seen attestations taking a number of months, particularly
Mhm.
at this point where the Department of Justice may not have as much in the way of of resources as people in these departments
Okay.
to be able to review these cases. There are other things going on that sometimes do take precedence.
Okay.
So sometimes the student loan discharge cases, uh, they get
Push back a
kind of
little bit.
pushed back. Yeah, yeah,
But the good
they
news
get
is,
lower priority, but they
yeah,
do get attended to.
and the client is dealing with their attorney is engaging it all. The client's just doing their life, right? Are they making their student loan payments during this time, or are those paused?
They're not making their student loan
Okay,
payments at this
that's
time.
great.
They're
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then once it comes back, is it an all or nothing, or do they give like a percentage, or what typically happens there?
Depending upon the location,
Okay.
there are certain jurisdictions that allow for partial discharge.
Mhm.
Um, California,
Mhm.
the Ninth Circuit
Mhm.
allows for partial discharge. So
Right.
in those cases, we'll sometimes see just a reduction in the total balance. But
Which is
what
still a win. It's still a
which
win, right?
which is definitely a win.
Yeah, of course.
And one of the neat things about discharges in bankruptcy is outside of bankruptcy, federal student loans in particular offer income-driven repayment plans
Right.
where your monthly payment is based on your taxable income and your family size, up to a maximum repayment term of 25 years. At the end of that period of time, the unpaid balance is forgiven.
Okay.
Under normal circumstances, that forgiveness may result in a tax liability.
Okay.
However, discharges in bankruptcy do not
Oh,
result in a tax liability. So
that's a
at
monster win. A
e
monster win.
exactly, exactly.
I didn't
Particularly
realize
for
that.
my clients that owe, you know, I've got clients that owe 2, 3, 4, $500,000 in
Yeah.
federal student loans.
Yeah.
Getting a reduction in bankruptcy
Huge.
and stipulating that there's not going to be a tax burden at the end, which is part of that negotiation. That's enormous for my clients because at the end of their 20 if they were just in an income-driven repayment plan, at the end of 25 years, they could very well owe 7 figures.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So,
That's a
yeah, so yeah,
huge wrinkle that I did not realize. Jay, what percentage of the clients are being submitted either get a meaningful reduction or discharge? Like where's that success number?
the of clients who submit the attestations?
Yeah, meaning bankruptcy attorneys that are working with, let's not assume a client doing it on their own. They're
Sure.
working with a professional and it's submitted to the Department of Justice or the state attorney. What's that success number?
It's it's actually kind of shocking. It is in excess of 90%.
Wow. I mean,
In excess, yeah.
I mean, I mean, when you said that earlier on, I was like floored because it's like it's not what you would expect. You expect, okay, 30, 40, 50%. I mean, over 90% of the people are getting a reduction because they realize the government realizes that some of these student loans were given to people when they shouldn't have been, right? A lot of these people cannot afford this and they never will. And they're people need a relief, right?
Yep,
And that's why they have these
absolutely.
laws.
Yep,
Jay Fleishman,
absolutely.
appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Bankruptcy Explained.